In 2023, Bankrate.com found that 36% of Americans had more debt than they had emergency savings. Financial struggles have been so prevalent that in April of 2024, CNBC found that 77% of Americans feel anxious about their financial situation, with 58% saying that their finances control their lives. What do you do when you're covered up in debt and you can't see a way out? On this edition of the Business of More podcast, we speak with Alissa Stewart-Sparks, the president and CEO of Kiowa Goodwill in Huntington, West Virginia. Also joining us is Angela Stanton, VP of Credit Counseling Services for the same Goodwill. And for the past 20 years, this Goodwill has fought to help people in financial struggles by taking a holistic approach to this far-reaching problem. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get started. I was looking through some statistics online, and what I saw was really intriguing to me when it comes to consumer credit card debt, and that's what we're talking about today. And what I noticed was that there were 77%, according to a recent CNBC poll, 77% of Americans don't have enough emergency savings to cover their credit card debt. And that 58% of them believe that financial stress and financial problems actually rule their lives. That is just an unbelievable number. When you think about the number of adults in the United States, right? I think the number is close to 260 million adults, not children, but adults in the United States. Those are staggering numbers. We're talking hundreds of millions of people who are stressed out about credit card debt, and hundreds of millions of people who are stressed out and believe that it is actually affecting their everyday lives. And, you know, I know that there's a percentage of us who say, you know what, credit card debt is a controllable thing, or debt in general is a controllable thing. People who are in that position are there because of their overspending. But from what I understand, that's not the full story, right?
No.
And so you guys have been working with people for over 20 years to help them with their financial difficulties, to help them with their consumer credit card issues. What other reasons have you seen that people get into these situations, or that they're in these situations?
I can use myself first, and then I'll let Angela speak, is that I am a former consumer credit counseling client here. People would think why a CEO of an organization would be a former consumer credit counseling client, especially, you know, being in the role.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had an 830 credit score, which is excellent, but my son, who I adopted, had developmental disabilities, and what insurance didn't pay for and I couldn't pay for out of pocket, Discover Card did.
Yeah.
We're all parents, I think, on this call, and many people that I'm sure are listening are the same and would do the same for their child to make sure they had the therapy and the care they needed. So $17,000 later, I walked down the hall to Angela's office and said, hey, he's done a lot of this therapy now and is at the point that I could go ahead and do some. I was paying $150 a week to try to beat the interest rate down,
Yeah.
paying $600 a month at 20% interest. So
Wow.
Angela and her credit counselor negotiated the interest rate with Discover to about 6.9%.
Yeah.
So I was able to pay that debt off in less than 2.5 years. And it would have taken me much longer in regards to that, you know, paying that off when it would have been 20 to 25%.
You know, I hear that number, 6.9, you were at 20%. The fact that they're able to negotiate down to 6.9, Angela, I don't want to say anything bad against people. That just seems predatory. That just seems like somebody who's kicking somebody else while they're down. How do you see that?
Well, right now, we're seeing a lot of people call us with even 30% interest rates right now because of the interest rate hikes that's been going on, you know, all across the board. So that does affect credit card interest rates. So someone that may have started out, you know, 24% may be at 30 now, you know, and they may have a perfect pay history. They're not behind on their cards, but their interest rates have gone up. But prior to doing this, I did work for 2 years in a credit card company. Back in 2000, I went to work for a credit card that was a non-traditional high-risk credit card, which was a big industry at that time. There were a lot of those credit card companies out there that if you were 18 and had a pulse, you got a credit card, no questions asked. And those were very predatory.
Yeah.
High account origination fees, high interest rates, high annual fees, and very tricky fine print. So they've kind of gotten away from that. It's been a little bit more regulated since then, but yeah,
Right.
it could be predatory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the wild, wild west. And I remember those days, right? Because anybody who wanted a credit card could get a credit card. Then 2008 happened, and everybody was like, oh no, why did we do this? And why did we allow this to happen? It's because we allowed it to happen.
Right.
So I'm thinking 30% on a $17,000 debt. And I understand your situation was different, Alissa. What kind of impact does that have on a person? And what kind of impact does that have on a family? What have you seen?
It does become, once they get to that point, if they're making minimum payments and those minimum payments have gotten so high
Yeah.
because of the interest rate, it becomes like this vicious cycle. I mean, they're making the minimums, but then by the time they make all their minimum payments, they have no money left over. So now they have to resort to using the card again
Yeah.
to make ends meet. But inflation, the economy, we're seeing that a lot right now.
Yeah.
Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, we weren't seeing these kinds of debt numbers come in. We're getting people calling our office every day, and it's unheard of. It's not unheard of to have $35,000 in credit card
Wow.
debt.
I think another thing to really remember in regards to that question too is that, believe it or not, most of the people that are on our debt management programs are over 60, and it's because they have more of a fixed income.
Yeah.
So then they get locked in. They're sometimes raising their grandkids now and things like that. So they're having to spend more money than they were planning on.
Yeah.
So now they're in more credit card debt, and since they're on a fixed income, it's even harder to get out of that debt.
Yeah.
And then, like when she was saying, you have interest rates at 30%, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, and I keep thinking to myself, what is it that people can do to prevent this? But there's just life changes, right? Circumstances change, and there's surprises that are thrown at people. And credit cards are easy debt. They're an easy way to pay for stuff, and you can really get yourself into a little bit of trouble. What's the largest amount that you guys have seen?
Well, I've been at this 22 years, and shortly after I finished my training, and one of the very first couples that I had in my office was $150,000.
$150,000 in credit card debt.
Yes.
How does a person
Yeah.
get into that situation? My goodness.
Well, this was a unique situation. She had, they had a very good income between them. They were six-figure income back in 2002.
Okay.
However, there was a bipolar disorder that had been diagnosed. She had been to a doctor for that. She was in counseling. She had got it under control, and then she came to us to try to get the debt under control. So that was a lot of her issue there because, and back then, that was in the wild, wild west of the credit card days.
Yeah.
They were giving out cards with $25,000 limits, and she had 4 of those. So there was 100,000 right there maxed out. And then the rest were catalog cards, department store cards, things like that. But they did eventually go on our program. They didn't go on immediately. I think they came back and they talked to the other counselor, and they did go on the program, and she did pay off all the debt.
So when you say that they came onto your program, what is something specific? Like, what are the specific steps? If somebody came in and said, I've got $150,000 in debt, what is it that you're able to do? Because that just seems you're never getting out of that. That's what it seems like to me.
Our debt management program actually can help people get out of that. I've seen millions of dollars over the course of my career paid off. And what we do is we have them fill out an application. There's one online, or we have an old-fashioned paper one too as well. We take a look at their net income, all sources. We have them list their monthly living expenses, and that covers everything from your pet food, daycare, mortgage, groceries, gasoline, anything. I mean, it's very detailed. They list all of their credit cards, the account numbers, the balances, what their current interest rates are. And then the credit card companies, they kind of have preset guidelines we follow as far as what they'll lower interest rates to, what they'll lower the payments to. Some cases we can get hardship, which brings it down even further, or even 0% interest, depending on what their situation is. But if they decide to go on our program, then they make one payment to us a month. we pay the creditors once a month, and the goal, they are paid off within 3 to 5 years. We snowball the payments. So, like, say, for instance, to make it easy, if you've got 4 creditors and everybody's getting $50 a piece, when one creditor pays off, we're going to take that 50. You're still going to pay the full amount, and then we're going to start snowballing it down the line with the other creditors.
It really is the interest rate, isn't it? That's what kills people. Like, they're able to pay back what they borrowed, but as soon as you say, you know what, you owe 30% more than what you borrowed, and it's not 30% more, it's 30% compounded monthly that you owe back. Those are some real numbers. You know, I think of a person. I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was agreeing with you. The compound interest is really, you're correct, that's what gets everyone.
Yeah. You know, I think of a person in this situation, right? Maybe they're young parents, or maybe they are parents, or maybe they've, they're just trying to make a living for their family. I don't think anybody goes out there and says, you know what, today my goal in life is to accumulate $150,000 in credit card debt. That's what I would love to do, right? We go out, we're just trying to make a living. And what I'm wondering, when the word that comes to mind when I think of people in this situation is hopeless or helpless, right? I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And as we were saying earlier, there's millions of people in this situation. How many people are you guys able to help? Like, what kind of numbers do you see on a weekly or daily basis?
I think on that one, it sort of varies, because not only do we do debt management plans, but we do a tremendous amount of financial education. So Angela goes out and provides on a weekly basis workshops to senior centers, drug court, recovery centers, individuals that come through our vocational rehabilitation programs. She's spoken at like the Society of Human Resource Managers, to employment assistance programs. So there's so many different ways that she can go out there and really reach the mass audience, and it doesn't always have to be about debt management plans.
Okay.
I'm gonna let her dive a little bit deeper to that, but we do so much more than that, because it's even pre and post bankruptcy counseling, because sometimes unfortunately you do get to that point.
Yeah.
We do even home buyer education, credit card counseling. We can pull credit reports and analyze those. So, but she has some really good.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that just helping them get out of credit card debt doesn't solve the issue. And there's you're trying to, if I hear you correctly, you're trying to counsel people before they get into that issue, but then also provide maybe a holistic approach to get, okay. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Maybe you list some of the classes that you teach.
Just yesterday or day before yesterday, I went and talked to the rehabilitation services. They had their regional meeting. We did 2 sessions. It was a 2-hour class. We did 2 sessions. The first one was called Simple Steps to Saving Money. So we went over everything from like how to save money on your car insurance, how to budget for your groceries, how to meal plan, things like that, just utilities. And the second one was understanding your credit report. Okay. So I can do classes on budgeting, credit reports, how to establish credit for people just starting out. I've been to a local high school this year, talked to the students in the financial education class, which is a required class for graduation, which we're all happy to hear that, because everybody says, I wish I'd learned this when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So they are kind of getting back to that a little bit, but I had a small part in that. Last year I did 56 workshops.
Wow.
We had 618 people attend. And that's just in our local area. So, like she said, I do work with drug court. There's a recovery center I'm getting ready to start doing classes with. There'll be about 50 people in those classes every other week.
Okay.
So we try to if we could catch them on the front end before they get into credit card debt, to try to teach them how to be proactive about things. Because so many times people, when they get into credit card issues or debt with other things, other types of debt, the tendency is to stick their head in the sand and kind of hope it goes away. And I've always said, you could wreck your credit in one day, but it's going to be years fixing it. It is true. I mean, we're all one shopping spree away from disaster.
Exactly. And you can stick your head in the sand, or you can start making really, really bad decisions, right? To
Right.
pay off that debt, try to
Yeah, the other thing, like you were talking before, hopeless and helpless, and you were talking about the percentages of how many people are in pretty deep credit card debt.
Yeah.
So imagine we both are operating companies, and so imagine the people coming to work, and you know that's on their mind. Are they really going to even be able to perform well?
Yeah.
Because they're dealing with that, and most of the time, like she was saying, sometimes there's some either an underlying mental health concerns
Yeah.
that will prompt these type of spending habits, and then she's also able to provide some referrals to our mental health counseling here, so you can really get to the root of the issue. That doesn't mean it's with everybody, but sometimes it does prompt that spending, and it's nice that we're able to provide the more holistic approach to being able to help them with their debt.
I love this. And Alyssa, I told you that here on the podcast, our goal is to talk about people who are doing good, right? Goodwill brings in a lot of money, millions of dollars a year, and this is what it's being used for, right? Yes, you got to keep up the stores, and yes, you have to pay people, but at the same time, you're helping the community because you're helping individuals, which helps families, which helps the entire community to be more stable at that point. People making less bad decisions as they go forward. And my guess is that just like with any other program, you have people who struggle more than others. What kind of repeat customers? I don't know how what kind of do you have people who come back over and over again? And
Yes,
how do you help them?
we've had several come back over again. I'll tell a little story. We had a lady one time. She had made her final payment on her debt management plan, and she had overpaid a little bit. So we sent her a check for the difference that she'd overpaid.
Yeah.
And she called me, and she's like, "What's this money for? What's this check for?" And I said, "Oh, well, you made your final payment. You're all done, and that was what was left over. We sent it back to you." She went, "Oh, well, honey, can I come back on the program?"
Oh no.
So she had already gone back out. We've had some people come back as many as 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Um, and we talk to them. We try to get them out of that cycle. But you're just going to have some people who are they're just going to do it.
No, that's usually the people that usually have some sort of mental health issue that triggers them to do that.
Okay.
So until they really address the root cause, they're going to come back 2, 3 times, like Angela said. But I would say the recidivism rate for our consumer credit counseling is very low. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
not that often.
We don't have
Really?
that many.
Yeah, it happens, but it's not really bad. I mean,
Oh, that's wonderful.
it's a few people.
It's very few.
Yeah, it sounds. What I love most about this is that it's not just, hey, you have $10,000 in credit card debt. Let's give you $10,000. Here's $1,000 in credit card debt. Let's give you $1,000. It's let's talk to somebody. Let's help make this situation a better situation for you, but also to make you a better consumer, because you still have to buy stuff, and you still have to feed your family. But let's do it in a smart way, building better communities. I love this. Do you ever, Goodwill's really known for helping people overcome barriers to employment. Are you able to dovetail these two programs together? Does this help? Do you ever help somebody with employment so that they can overcome their credit card issues or their financial issues?
Yeah, it just depends. The great thing about our Goodwill and every Goodwill is that we all can meet, each individual Goodwill can meet the community needs as we see fit. So what might be needed here in Huntington, West Virginia might be different in San Francisco, California.
Yeah.
So what we have found here that has been really holistic for us is not only the financial education and consumer credit counseling and debt management programs. We can offer them mental health counseling. 99% of our individuals, that is free.
Okay.
Which we're very blessed to be able to offer that. And that's not just to our employees, that's to the public as well.
Oh, good.
Then we also have a workforce development program that helps people with employment, and then soft skills training, such as how to do a resume, how to shake a hand, how to do the marketing spiel when you go out and interview.
Yeah.
We also have a hire attire program, which gets men and women clothes for their interview and employment when they lock in that job. We also do a lot of emergency assistance.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we fight a lot of Facebook myths on, why give to Goodwill because they don't give anything away?
Yeah.
Last year alone, we gave out to more than 2,400 individuals in the Huntington community with a value of over $140,000.
Wow. Wow.
Of things that people needed, and it could be individuals that were homeless, reentry, recovery,
Yeah.
had a fire, a flood, whatever the case may be. We are always here to help. We also have a contracts division that also can offer employment as well, because some of those can be tailored to maybe somebody's disability or disadvantage because they might be potentially hard. It's harder for them to find employment.
Yeah.
So with having all those, and then like our backpack programs, we have a coat program. We're really able to meet all those needs, so they're able to have that pathway to success.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a wonderful thing to give people a hand up. I know I hear this a lot when I talk to different Goodwills. It's not a handout; it's a hand up, right? How do we help each other? Let me ask you this: what does a good day look like? When you go out there, and did you have a story where you say, we won today, we won?
One of the best things I can tell you, this week we're fortunate enough to host a National Goodwill event here in Huntington. So we had to pick two mission moments. And one of those individuals was a lady by the name of Deb. She was hired here on the day that she was supposed to go to prison for 15 years based on drug use and drug sales. So when she went and she applied, we hired her. She went to the court, thought she was going to be sentenced to 15 years. He said, well, since you're trying to be a productive member of society, we're going to go ahead and let you work and let's see if this works out. They didn't think that it was going to, but 7 years later, she's here. She started as a part-time dock attendant, got promoted to full-time. Then she worked in the retail store. Then she got promoted to being a truck driver. Now she's the assistant lead supervisor as a truck driver. And then about 5 years ago, she became the supervisor for Huntington and Bloom, which was our Huntington, West Virginia's beautification project from April to October every year.
Wow.
So then she supervises a team of about 5 or 6 individuals, and they're all in recovery, just like her. So she's really able to take that culture of like, when you take care of a plant, you're really nurturing it, you're caring for it, you have to, really give it the tools and things that it needs to grow and be beautiful.
Yeah.
I taught her that when you're doing that with a plant, it's really doing the same thing with the individuals in recovery, because you have to nurture them, care for them, give them the resources and the tools to be the beautiful person that they are. And this year, she is 7 years drug-free. She is not on probation or anything anymore.
Good for her.
And has really led a wonderful, wonderful team in Huntington and Bloom. She just got a certificate in emotional intelligence for managers and graduated with her life coach certificate.
So she had
that's a great day.
Yeah, she had a chance to go to jail for 15 years, and instead she worked at Goodwill and was given an opportunity. And I'm guessing every day wasn't an easy day. I'm guessing that was very hard for her.
No, she'll tell you it's real. She'll tell you it's extremely hard.
Good for her.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, and the awesome thing, Elias, is that we get to do that every single day. So we're the second, third, fourth, 15th chance employer. And I wouldn't trade my team for anything, because if you give somebody the opportunity to shine, they usually will outwork, outpace everyone, because nobody else will give them a chance. So it's worked out really, really, really well.
I was going to ask you, that's such a good story. I don't know that I want to ask you the next question, but I'll ask it anyway. What's a difficult day where you feel like, we need more? We could have done more, or I just wish somebody would have made a different decision. And how do you deal with those days? Because I'm guessing those come up.
Yeah, it's very hard, because those are probably the most difficult, because you'll have people in almost the same situation as I was speaking before, in regards to Deb, that work really hard. They try really hard. You can see like, oh my gosh, they're getting it. They're in recovery, or, they're in a reentry program with us. And then something triggers them to go back to doing what they were doing before. Okay. And that is really unfortunate, because, I know Angela's thinking of the same person that I'm thinking of. We had several people that have worked here or we've placed outside in competitive employment that are just have so much potential
Yeah.
and do so good, and their hearts are wonderful. But sometimes those demons are hard to fight,
Yeah.
and they get sucked back into it somehow. And we still try to help them. We'll see them driving down the street, or see them at different places, and we try to help them. But they have to make that decision to come back for us to help them,
Yeah.
because like we've all heard, they have to help themselves. No matter how much Angela and I want to go out there and help them, they have to want to help themselves, because it won't work otherwise.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it seems to be a recurring theme recently for me, just hearing people say people have to make the choice. They have to be able to say, I want this. And you can't force people to make good decisions. It's got to come from within. Yeah.
It's kind of like with our credit counseling, the debt management program. We may have someone call and we don't, and then we'll send them an application. We'll give them all the information, and we won't hear from them again. And then 4 months later, they pop back up, and they finally made the decision to let those credit cards go because they got to think about it. I mean, so yeah, we encounter that as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Well, I have really appreciated the conversation. I love what you guys are doing. If there was anybody who said, you know what, you really touched my heart, I would love to be involved with this, or I would love to be able to contribute to this, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
Probably through either our website, which is Goodwill Hunting, like the old movie,
Yeah.
goodwillhunting.org, or they can call us, or even they can call my cell phone, which I would give because it's Goodwill's number. It's 304-412-1490. And they can reach out to me at any time if they'd ever want a tour. Angela and I'd be more than glad to provide them a tour if they want any questions about, her debt management program or any
Yeah.
other service, or want to ask me about any Facebook or social media myth that they see out there, because 99% of it is false.
Yeah.
We would love to be able to answer their questions directly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, before we let you go, there's a question that we ask everybody, and today I'm going to get 2 for 1. So I'm going to ask you both this question. So number one, which book has influenced you throughout your professional career? Would you say this book has been influential to me?
I really don't know the answer to that. I was telling Alissa when I saw the question, I was like, I remember, and it wasn't one particular book, but when I first started this, like I said, I'd worked in a credit card company for 2 years. So I kind of got a credit education there, and that was
Yeah.
an eye-opening experience. And I felt like I was the bad guy. So when I got this job, I felt like I crossed the fence over to being a good guy to help people. But there's really no education out there to teach you how to be
Okay.
a credit counselor.
Yeah.
It is very much a self-study. So I remember going to the library and hitting the financial section
Okay.
and just checking out books on how to, about credit, about budgeting, how to counsel people, the psychology of spending, the psychology behind credit card debt and everything, so that I could get better at what I do.
Okay.
So it wasn't just one book, it was a lot of
It was a
books,
lot of
and it's
books.
been 22 years ago, so I can't really remember at this
That's
point.
fair.
But
How about
yeah.
you, Alissa? What any books?
If I had to pick two, it'd be one was Dare to Lead by Brene Brown.
Okay.
There's probably three. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, because it really teaches you it's okay as a leader to take some of that armor off and be vulnerable.
Okay.
You don't have to know everything, and that's okay. And to get to know our teammates is fine. You don't have to expose everything,
Yeah.
but it's good to just be open and vulnerable and learning. The other one is Good to Great. I think it's by Jim Collins, which is an awesome book
Great
for
book.
anybody
Yep.
out there. And then I'd have to say one that it was more personal, but it correlates professional, because I have 2 adopted children, is Lost Daughters of China. And it's very impactful.
And Lost Daughters in China, is that what you said?
Lost Daughters of China.
Lost Daughters of China. Okay. And then last question. If you could go back, let's say 20 years or so, what advice would you give to the younger you? What do you wish you had known then that you know now?
Nothing that I really, not too personal. Most of mine would be, yeah.
Probably mine would be is one, I'm pretty much a risk taker, but that sort of happened after I turned 25. I've always been sort of wild with my hair and clothes and stuff.
Okay.
But I've always been very responsible. So I would say is that quit worrying so much about what other people think, because we all do that when we're younger. And and I'm doing that with my kids now. It's like, why are you worrying about everybody else?
Yeah.
You want them to be caring, but I said you're in no race. The only race that you're in with is the person that you were yesterday.
Yeah.
So quit worrying about so much and then really enjoy your life and enjoy the ride, because sometimes I think all of us are so driven that we forget to enjoy the time that we have, because then it goes by so fast
Yeah.
that you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, my kids have grown up, they're out of high school, and oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And you're thinking all the stuff you wanted to do that you should maybe should have done. So it's I say enjoy the ride too.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate your time today. Continue doing the good work, and thank you so much.
Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.